G'day everyone, welcome to Get Lost with a Travel Guide with your host Ben, and today we have the human lie detector, Scott Taylor. Now, what we really unpacked on this very long episode is his whole life story on how he got all this wisdom, knowledge and experience and expertise on how to determine are people full of shit. That's right, he absolutely knows with a lot of accuracy if the other person is telling the truth. What a powerful tool to have, right? So he's acquired this knowledge with training people such as the FBI. He's been featured on numerous television shows as a consultant, including the issues involving the Bondi Junction stabbings. He's also analysed the absolute shit out of Married at First Sight, including yours truly. You could go on to TikTok and check out some of his assessments of Married at First Sight. People, are they telling the truth? Are they being genuine? Are they there for the right reasons? Was I married at first sight for the right reasons? You'll be the judge of that, and most certainly Scott Taylor judged the shit out of me correctly or not correctly. You'll be able to figure that out. We also have some amazing questions by Jack Dunkley, some hard-hitting questions which Scott, I think, answered really interestingly. You'll have to check out the episode. Hope you enjoy. Recording in progress. Scott, how are you? Welcome to the pod. And I must say, appreciate you coming on. And your background is looking fancier than mine. So you're looking good.
Yeah, it's come together all right. I think because I'm doing a lot of these things, but just over time, there's a little bit of me in all different areas there for sure.
That's it. I sent that like a how-to Zoom information, which I actually got from Married at First Sight. So I've just they've given me all that info with all the interviews I had to do, and then I think you've been on TV probably more than me. I was having a bit of a sticky beak of your profile. I think you were on when the Bondi stabbings occurred and numerous other crime investigations, and it seems like you're the go-to guy for answers. Like reporters are in media, but it seems like we want to talk to someone. The police maybe aren't, their spokespersons look like a bit of a dry biscuit, but you're not a dry biscuit. You have quite a lot of information and intellect to be able to share. So is that sort of your backstory? Have you got that sort of right?
Yeah, just under 30 years security, safety, and risk, but the last probably 9 years, a lot of it been focused around behavior profiling. I wanted to try and learn more on how I could identify if people had bad intent. That's sort of where it started. So to pick people that came into mass gathering areas who was there for violence or shoplifting or aggression. And what it led to, I got introduced to some of the best specialists around the world. So I was able to train with ex-FBI, ex-military, and specialists on facial micro expressions, body language, statement of word analysis, and a range of things. And so now my days are very, very various. I go from doing stuff from some of the stadiums on keeping them safe to teaching people who's going to shoplift before they shoplift. And the Married at First Sight stuff, some people said to me, you should start sharing some TikToks into some of the behaviors. And my response, I'm going to say, was, I did not think anyone's going to want to listen to a 51-year-old dude sit in front and talk about saying, who I think is telling the truth and why, but it went a bit crazy. But I suppose the stuff you mentioned for post the sad things with Westfields and Wakely, and that was just because I tied the behavioral elements to security. So I think from that point of view, I was able to share some content. I'm just glad some of it was a benefit.
Yeah, totally. So you just said a bunch of things there, which I'd love to be able to unpack and understand. So you said you're 51.
Yep.
Is this where you thought your life would have been at 51 years old in this position? Like, how was school for you? And did you think, I want to be in this position, or did it just sort of happen by accident?
No, that will be a long discussion by itself. But I'm one of these people that didn't have the greatest childhood. Mum passed away when I was young, dad remarried. And so I was one of those people who were doing a lot of, I consider after some reflection, I was doing a lot of the right things for the wrong reasons. So I was at age 14, 15, training in the gym, learning more, doing everything I can, but it was just so I could turn around to my family and say I was smarter than you, stronger than you. So, just right things, wrong reasons. As I got older, met a wonderful woman that, changed my life, and who I'm happy to call my wife lately now, and changed my views on a lot of things. So no, my original thing was doing foreign currency exchange. And then when I got into security, I got hooked on I suppose the bit of the power and that sort of stuff, like with bouncing, and just you have some events in your life that cause you to be other people centered. And so a lot of my life now, I focus on what I can do to help people be the best version of themselves. And so some of the things I take some unusual paths for that, as you can see with these videos. But no, this is not where I thought I'd be at all. But I'm very comfortable. I found my place.
All right. So in your 20s, like I was looking at your LinkedIn profile. I don't
Yep.
understand it. Like, I mean, if I'm having a sticky beak at someone's profile, things that might be familiar with, I was very unfamiliar with just about everything, trained with the military. I can't relate with that. And not many
Yep.
people on your day to day can. So I've just got a little bit of things I'd love to be able to learn about. Because you mentioned before about interpreting, understanding body language, or basically determining if people are full of shit. But you
Yeah.
learnt this from special forces. So how is it Joe Navarro? Was he like an
Yeah. So
FBI agent or something?
yeah, so some of the people I've been lucky to train with. So I did Joan Navarro, who was from the FBI Behavior Unit. I did his mastery program. And then since then, one of the people I'm very now proud to call my friend, let alone mentor, got to learn from Robin Drake, who was the head of the FBI Behavior Unit, like here for a period of time. And then so a range of those guys. I think it's a bit misunderstood some of the things about body language because there's so many silos with it. And so, I did some training on facial micro expressions with Paul Ekman's, training and work, and then all over body language with some of the stuff from people like Chase Hughes and Joe Navarro. But then I spent time with ex-military interrogator Lena Cisco on how to get information from people.
How do
And then you've
you
got
sorry,
statement of word analysis and
how do you even
yeah.
connect with these people?
Yeah, I mean, so part of it, I think, because of what I do in the security and risk space, I've got quite a good global network from that point of view. So I've consulted over in the Middle East with getting them ready for the World Cup. I've done some stuff through the States and everything, and that's on electronic security or on the bodyguarding or event security and these sort of things. And so from there, I suppose, because when I was speaking to them, I shared some of my background. Here's where I'm sort of interested, and can I learn from you? So I just reached out. To be honest, I'm one of these people that. Mate, like yourself, a lot of things that you share is about reviewing and being a better version of yourself. I do that constantly, but I'm probably have a bit more of an addictive personality in my approach. So I do skills gap analysis reviews on myself, what I want to be, what skills do I need, where do I close that gap? And then I write myself a plan. And through that work, I was able to meet and then learn from some of the best people around the globe. And yeah, so I'm very happy to be able to do that.
I love that. I do a similar strategy for myself personally. So I can actually I know where you're coming from. I never probably applied it to a military level of being very precise, as dedicated, a bit more flexible, relaxed in my own personal development. Um,
Yep.
so you started to contact with people maybe in your 30s or 40s, but you said you were doing security. Are you talking like bouncing? Is that like sort
Every
of pubs and clubs? So that's where you started.
yeah.
Like, okay, so it's probably more of a simpler version of security. Someone's drunk or not, someone's been a dickhead, stay in or stay out. But I'm guessing that was
Yeah.
too easy for you. Maybe you thought, hang on, I've got a bit more grey matter between the years. You have a lot of intelligence by virtue of us even chatting and being made yourself on television. Is that what
Yep.
happened? You thought deep down, I'm sort of better than this. I want to take this to a new level.
Oh, I mean, so I still do some stuff like on the doors and events. I love doing it, but I think I took a bit of a different approach. And there's so much to the security stuff. And when you look at the security guards with what happened there at Westfields, I think I just took a bit of a different approach. And so I wanted to learn the why. And so it's one thing being able to have some physical presence or skills to deal with people, but being able to look at someone and say, before you're having the interaction, based on their behaviors, the words they're saying, these attributes, this is somebody who's likely to have some built up frustration and aggression, or this is somebody who's going to try and shoplift, or these sort of things. That was my focus. So it was more just about the learning. Uh, I've got that addictive personality with a lot of the things that I do. And so as I started doing more with security, I then thought, okay, what else is in security? So then I got more in investigations, then electronic security, then open source intelligence. And then from there, that led to the behavior stuff. So it was more just about wanting to be better at what I was doing. And then it just led to like a lot of different learning. So yeah, it's been a very weird journey. So I can understand that LinkedIn would look quite weird.
Yeah, it's like any type of podcast I'm doing my research, but this is the you're the first guest I've had where I'm like completely bloody clueless to a degree. We're trying to actually understand exactly what you've studied and also how to apply it. Like it's knowledge that you just can't go to uni straight away or go to TAFE or it's very niche, it's very acquired. skill set that you've been able to obtain and apply it. But you also just mentioned, excuse me, you mentioned there electronic. So you're talking like cybersecurity issues.
Oh, a mix. So I mean, because I'm internationally certified across from security point of view, but I'm able to help everything from the security and risk point of view. So some of my clients, for example, are like Melbourne Olympic Park, Marvel Stadium, some of the TV media networks. So the span will be doing, like, for example, open source intelligence. So if they've got a big event coming up, or if they've got some new talent they'll take on, I'll review that person's digital footprint to say, are they good, credible people? Are they sharing things that could be used against them? I can do some residential security. We help with security planning. Then it'd be event security, bodyguarding, all that sort of stuff. Now, I mean, it's probably more accurate than what you've said, than what you realize what you said about applying it. So the stuff that I do now with the behavior stuff, my weeks go from recruiting firms saying, and I'm teaching them how to use behavior profiling to beat Chat GPT, because people are doing fake resumes and fake interview prep. I teach them the body language and nonverbal so you can tell when people are telling the truth. So who you're trying to interview, are they that person? Or if you're walking through Woolworths and Big W, how you can tell the people who are going to shoplift before they shoplift because they duck their chin, they move their arms 12 to 15% less, all these sort of things. So there's a lot of application. It's just finding that niche, or that sparks some interest in you.
Yeah,
Did
all
you see
right.
the
No.
and
Just like it said, like Melbourne Park, a footy stadium. Yeah, I'm thinking about watching the footy. Okay, so
yeah,
suppose there's a woman listening to this podcast and she's 30 and she swiped
yep,
right. She's going to go on a Tinder date and she's a little bit nervous. This
yep,
guy, what are some suggestions or tips? Suppose she's in the date and she says, "Hey,
yep,
what do you think?" I'm just trying to think of a real life example. So she asked the guy, "So what do you do for a living?" And guys are
yeah,
usually full of shit. They usually make up the biggest elaborate fucking unbelievable job title there is. And she's thinking,
yeah.
what are some telltale signs for
Yeah,
to
well,
figure
I mean,
out?
some of the, if you understand the principles behind it, and this is a real quick and easy one, we used to walk around on all fours, and so now that we stand up, our main vital organs and everything are now vulnerable. So you've got this front area, which, and this is some of the stuff I did with the MAFS vids as well. So the thing behind it, you've got an area which I'm going to say the pin between your shoulders and your belly button is what we call the ventral area. This is what we align with honesty and openness. You've then got three power zones, which is under your chin, your belly button, and your groin. So this area and those power zones, when people are being honest and they're comfortable and confident, like you are now, they're open. We don't close them up. When people, for example, they ask that question about the job and the person leans back or ducks their chin or they angle their body away, they start touching this part of their neck or whatever, they're covering those things, that's showing discomfort. Now, if that happens after you've asked that question, that's one form of an indicator. But it's not like the old myth to say, hey, someone does that or fold their arms, they're lying. We look across multiple channels. At the same time as that, they might, if somebody's going to have deceptive behavior, cortisol, that stress hormone, gets released. And so that makes their mouth dry out. So at the same time as adjusting and reducing your access to these power zones, they'll lick their lips, they will swallow, they do a range of other things. And so, or even the words that they use. So between the combination of those, you can check. So the tip for those people on a date, truth tellers convey, liars convince. If they're putting extra filler words in there, then it's bullshit. You don't need to add in all the extra fluff stuff if you're being truthful. You don't need to say I'm 100% certain and definite and all these if you're honest and certain. So look for openness with those power zones. Make sure that they're not overselling you with their words. Short, clear answers are the best. It's when they put fillers is where they're more likely bullshitting you.
So it's not just the dating world you could apply this for. I'm thinking in maybe like in interviews, negotiation, sales,
Yeah.
perhaps. A lot of salesmen are
Yep.
completely full of shit. So if you're a buyer and I don't know, you're
Yeah.
trying to buy a car and a car salesman comes over
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he's going, "Oh, this secondhand car. Oh, let me tell you a tale." And
Yep.
you're thinking, all right, you're sniffing bullshit. And everyone
Yep.
expects a salesman to be full of shit or at least heighten things up or polish a
Yeah.
turd in order to sell
Yep.
it. But some people are so amazing at it. How do they do it? How do people look people dead in the eye and be full of shit?
Yeah. I
Teach
mean, well,
me. Teach how is it possible?
I mean, firstly, like yeah, they're practiced with a lot of the things, but even these sales people, they have tells when you're squeezing them on price. And some of the things we look for example, is hygiene gestures. If you speak to somebody and is that your best price, no room to move, you'll see if after you've said that, people either will adjust part of their clothing, do part of a grooming thing. It's called a hygiene gesture. We do that subconsciously, which means I'm about to put forward the best version of myself. You would only do that if you had more room to move. So when you're negotiating, when you see these sort of things, keep squeezing these people. So it's just the hardest thing with this sort of stuff, whether it's the recruiting, whether it's sales, whether it's the dating stuff, is we get so focused on our own outcomes and what we think we should be looking at. And you need to be other people centric. And you need to remove your bias. And that's the hardest thing. And I got to be honest, a lot of flack back about some of the mass videos about those things where people saying, mate, you're only seeing a minute or two of these things. How can you say some of these items? All you need is certain windows when you're seeing that part in an emotional response. There may be more depth and context, but the brain knows what it knows. And when you have an emotion, whether it's anger, happiness, whether there's deceptive behavior, there's physiological changes. But if you're too busy on your own words, or you've got a preconceived opinion as to what you think they're going to say or where that limit is, you're going to miss all that stuff. And that's the biggest thing I try and say to people. You need to be people centric. Don't be looking at your phone. Don't be thinking of your agenda or your outcome or your next meeting, whether it's a personal or professional conversation. Just be present because then you'll pick up the facial expression changes, the change in their rhythm, speed, volume, and pitch. They go, wow, you know what? That's something really important to them. I hear it in their words. I see it in the different tones. And you won't pick that stuff up unless you're present and just you're removing your bias from the start.
So I guess in essence, if you're into certain types of meditation, so you're not, as you said, so you're not focused about past or present or what you want. It's about being in the moment, kind of like this
Yep.
podcast. I've got a bunch of dot points here, but I'm also
Yep.
trying to be very focused on exactly what you're saying to be in the moment, to let things skew. So I know what you mean, and it is a practice. So
Yeah.
um, mindfulness
These are the best
and
these are the best sort of chats. That like yeah,
yeah,
because you have a couple of points and some things like if we're going through, but we'll flow in like in different stuff and there's differently your points of interest. So that's why these are the best your conversations because the thing is you pull a thread based on things that you see, based on the conversational alignment changes in the person with what you say and you see or feel it resonate differently. You think, oh, there's more to that,
yeah.
and picking those things up. And a lot of people don't. And the thing is, you say about the type of learning, I also think when I'm to come on a podcast, the people I'm dealing with and what their world is like. And I think about things like, for example, when you're doing things like you're with the tours, you need to know the logistics and travel, but you need to know the area and knowledge to share. But then you need to people learn everybody to customize and tailor it for them. So there's a lot of like a people skills in there, like which is quite nuanced, which people, unless they stop and think about the people interaction element, wouldn't be front of
Mm.
mind for them. So I get it.
I'll get a little bit sidetracked on that because this is your podcast. I want to unpack, but you're right. Like I have to adapt in the moment to that individual on how I communicate to get a best outcome. Um, I know exactly what you mean. I got to be so present. For me,
Yeah,
it's therapy because there's a whole riffraff of the world out there, and I'm on the microphone. I've got 50 people in front of me. I'm just talking, and I love it for that purpose. And I don't know exactly what outcome's going to be, but I think it's taught me the gift of being present and reading that individual and how to communicate. I've never perfected the art. I just think I've improved upon it. Which
yep,
what makes you one of the most challenging people perhaps I've ever interviewed because other people I've interviewed um, are so unaware of what we're talking about. So I'm able to
yeah,
pick up little subtle details of animation and it's quite easy. So brings me on
yep,
to the next question.
yep.
How does that go for you? Because once you have knowledge, you can't unlearn the knowledge. So do you go out in a pub or a bar and someone's giving you someone someone's full of shit? How do you just switch off and chill out and not analyze the room?
That's out of all the things, regardless of how do I tell if someone's shitting me or telling the truth, the question is how does my brain switch off is probably the one I get the most. The answer is like it doesn't, and I know there's some people that do what I do that they say, "Oh, yeah, here's how I'm able to do it," and I'm honest about this. I don't, so I can't go to concerts, events, and these sort of things and switch my brain off. If we go through there, I'm not a musical person anyway, so music doesn't sort of relax me anyway. But if I go to mass gathering events, because of the combination of the security and the behavior part, I'm enjoying myself because I take pleasure seeing the people I'm going with, and especially my family love concerts and events, you know what I mean? So I vicariously enjoy doing that, but I'm looking at those fences in the wrong spot, that CCTV's in the wrong area, that crowd density is 5 people per square meter. If it gets to 6, there's going to be an issue. These two guys are 2 drinks away from having an issue for that sort of stuff. So my brain doesn't switch off with that. The thing is though, over time, what I've learnt to do is it doesn't take the same cognitive load now. So I see when people are behaving and interacting and picking up signs of aggression or affection or whatever thing's coming. And I now look at that as being how other people may say, oh, look, that's a blue shirt or that's like a red pair of shoes. So it just doesn't take the cognitive load. But no, my brain doesn't switch off. And there is some bad bits to that. And look, I haven't shared one of these things, but I'll share one with you because I do and have spent a lot of time sort of assisting previously in around with women's homelessness and some of the domestic violence shelters. A lot of things around there have been very front of mind. So there's been times that, and there was one particular time that I was in the shopping area and I saw an interaction between a male and female in there, and some of the things really sparked and just lit up a lot of things with me, saying this isn't right. I'm seeing some of these things and these behaviors, and previously, until I had some of the training and awareness, I just wouldn't have picked up on those, on just the nuances of what was happening in between them. But not only to pick up at it, it felt it hit me that strongly that 20 minutes later in the shopping center, when I was by herself, I actually went up and said, "Here's the number for some support services. Like, I'll just leave that with you. You're loved. You've got an ability to be supported and whatever else, wherever you are in your journey. I just need you to know that." And so things like that. So some of the things is what comes with this as well. Whilst there's some good and you can be of service for people to help them tell their story or get that job interview or get that client or identify truth. Some of the things with that is when you are more other people present, everything hits you harder. So there's some videos I watch on Instagram for things and I'm watching the face and the change in voice and whatever, and it probably hits me a lot more than what it was. So that's some of the other things you get with that. It's good to be present and to have a bit more awareness of where people are in their emotional state. But the other byproduct is you get a big, deeper understanding of people's emotional state.
Are we? I remember one of your videos I watched on TikTok, and you have it a West Tigers. So, do you follow rugby league?
Yes, very much. Yep. Yeah.
Are you familiar with the Jared Hayne scandal?
Yeah, and I know that he's just so I haven't really reviewed any other stuff, but I have no doubt because of him now being out, I'll get sent some videos to review like I did the baby reindeer and Farquhar and stuff. So
Oh, I'm
I'll review
dying.
some of his content and I'll share a video. Yep.
Oh man, I can't wait to pick your brain on that because I've always thought he's innocent. He
Yep.
went to court. He had a hung jury. He went to a second court. He was guilty. Now he's appealed. Now
Yep.
he's innocent. And I always thought the story was like, 50. The only people that would really know is Jared Hayne and the female behind closed doors. At the end
Yep.
of the day, they were the only ones that were there. But we got to do another one on Jared Hayne. That one is killing
Yeah.
me.
Well, any videos that like those sort of things that you see, and it's so similar to whether it's that Farquhar Haas one about sadly the guy that drove into the dam like if with his children or these other things, or the recent one I did for Donald Trump. The part about this is depersonalizing it a bit with some of the circumstances can be hard. Removing any bias on what you think or whatever they've done, and then you're just looking for what's their baseline and what's the deviations to the baseline. How do they select the words? Have they changed their speaking cadence or the intonation of the words when they've done that? Because people will speed up sometimes if there's some deceptive elements or they don't want to focus on there. They'll end with an upward inflection rather than downward inflection. They'll change the ordering, like a whole range of things. And that's before you even look at blink rate, what they're doing with their lips, what they're doing with their hands, all these sort of things. So, as I mentioned, the brain knows what it knows. So, if there's some video where they're asking him some questions and others, then there'll be behavioral indicators that will give some indication as to his level of truthfulness for sure.
Have you ever encountered anyone that's fully aware of this and conscious of it and mastered the art of bullshit? That aware of all this and almost like acting to a point where it's flawless.
Not yet. And so I've had some people be close with some of the things that I've done here and overseas. People that have had elements of similar training to me have been coming to where I'm doing a presentation and they're wanting to see if I'm legitimate before they engage me, whatever else. And they'll bump me and try and use some of these techniques of getting information. So you get some people that have some forms of training. But as yet, I think because of, I suppose, the time doing it now and the people I've been very fortunate to learn from are so big on those things about being other people centered, balance, removing bias that I'm able to do that, quite easily now. I spend 3 to 4 hours a week pure people watching with no agenda, different people in different areas in different contexts just to watch. How do you tell if somebody's in a shopping center and walking to a shop with purpose, or people that are going to shoplift where they look differently, what they do with their eye pattern, all these other things. People when they're walking in a relationship based on how they're holding hands, how close they are, when they sit across the table, are they leaning in with symmetry? All these sort of things. So I people watch all the time, and I think the other part is just the combination of training with that. I haven't had the interactions yet, or been tested to that level to think, okay, I don't see any tells in one form or another. So no, so far that hasn't happened.
Have you heard of the lie detector test on all the movies in all the Hollywood films? Put him into the lie detector test.
You're talking the yeah, so when they put the
The
machine, yeah,
it's in all
the
the
thing is with
movies.
those. Yeah, so that works on things like pupil dilation, galvanic skin response, and a range of other things. So there's new technology out now, and I've been very fortunate. Not that I've shared much about it, but I've got one of the only licenses in Australia with this program out of Israel, and it does layered voice technology. It can tell you live based on changes in your vocal tone and subtones, deceptive behavior, concerns for risk, all these sort of things. So there's a lot more new technology out, like you with those. I'm a firm believer because we look at multiple communication channels. So if I'm looking for somebody's true intent, I'm looking across 2 or 3 channels and in 6 or 7 seconds. So changes to their words, word ordering, speaking cadence, plus then the physiological things, blink rate, what they do with the mouth, those power zone things, all those sort of things, and looking at that over a short period. So I think the lie detector's got a lot of merit, but it's one indicator. I think it's you got to verify from different sources.
I just thought it's a bloody good question. I was just like, I'm engaged.
Sorry, mate.
I find it so fascinating what you're talking about. I would actually want to learn it and apply it for myself for my own personal benefit.
Yep.
Um, so one of my favorite TV shows is Seinfeld. And
Okay.
George Costanza is one of the biggest bullshit artists of all time. And he cheats the lie detector test. And he does it by
Yep.
saying, it's not a lie if you believe it.
You believe it.
So is that the hack? Like if you brainwash yourself to believe your own bullshit, is that the trick?
No. So I mean some of the things on that, let's because of the different silos I mentioned to you about facial expressions, body language, and the word part. So let's talk about with the questions with the lie detector. They ask questions for baseline, and I teach it in my sort of simple form. So that RSVP, not the dating app, rhythm, speed, volume, and pitch. The other thing, if you understand that as adults, we've all got 30 to 35,000 words in our personal dictionary. So if you ask me any form of question, I've got to run back to my mental filing cabinet, pull 13 or 14 words out, and come back to you with a response. Now, if what I'm going to come back to you with is I'm going to create something, I'm going to lie to you, as I'm doing that, I need to bring in extra, I need to run it through a filter. I then need to check, well, hang on, I'm going to lie like it to Ben about this, and I'm creating it now in the current tense, but I need to make it sound like the past tense. So all those other things, aside from word slipping, changing in speaking cadence, you get some cognitive load because you got to think and do that. And so that shows with the physiological changes. So the thing about like for the lie detector test, yeah, I think it's a great indicator. But I suppose from my experience with things at the moment now, is to look more broadly because it works on, like I said, the galvanic skin response and a couple of other things. And I think in some areas, if people with narcissistic tendencies and like and other things won't show, same as people with Botox will show different types of facial expressions. And so that's why it's not making rash judgment. Whatever you're thinking, stop and think what else is driving that, and then rescan and look again. You know what I mean? So what you mentioned a really important thing, once again, probably more important than what you realize. That if you see these things and do you call it out? That's the other part about this is once you start seeing these things, if I'm in an interaction with an interview or whatever, if I see something and say, "Oh, I think you've been dishonest there," I lose the chance to validate it. If I ask something about someone's work history and I see that they start touching this part of their face or they lean across or some tension in their
Yeah, but
hands,
how do you know they don't have just a rash? You know?
exactly. So what I do is I'll change the topic to something else and let their body language reset. Talk about something safe, like as in, like, did you want a coffee? Did you find the place okay? Talk about something that's safe and positive for them. Let's talk about some of your relations or positive experiences. Then I'll reset. And if I see the same responses, then that's that cluster, then it's behavior driven. So that's how we sort of work through that, just to make sure. Always re-verify.
I remember, you said about Botox. Um,
Yep.
During the whole Married at First Sight photo scene, promo scene, like Ellie and I were in a good space at that stage, and
Yep.
the photographer goes, "Okay, we had to do all these emotions and pretend, just for promo." And like,
Yeah.
Ellie, look angry. She's like, I can't. I got too much fucking Botox. Like, she's like glued up. Yeah, it's fucking hilarious.
And so the funny thing that so you've just illustrated like another important point. So people think angry because you align anger, which is one of the signs, with the furrowed brow. What
Mm.
people don't realize, another sign of anger is chin jar. So when, for example, Will Smith slapped Chris Rock and people asked me, was that legitimate? Aside from the furrowed brow and change of eye, he showed a very strong chin jar. That's a sign of anger and aggression. So, but people don't realize that. And that's the thing about some of these things. The reason, once you learn them, why they're so effective is people don't realize sometimes what the actual emotions really look like. And so anger, someone out for anger, furrow brow, but also jutting chin. Oh, is that what you think, is it, mate? And but people don't associate some of those things.
I was hoping to like give the listeners like top 3 tips to determine if someone's a bullshit artist, but it seems like it's somewhat complex to that. Like it's case by case, little subtleties. I said tonality, wording, body language. So you really have to be
Yeah.
aware of what that all is and then apply it in the moment. But can you simplify it? Like, what's the top 3 telltale signs that someone's full of shit?
Yeah, well, I mean, the first one is that truth tellers convey, like, your liars convince. People that with deceptive behavior, they feel like they need to convince you of their story. So they'll put extra filler words in all the time. The second biggest one I'll give you, and I'll tie it to a MAFS example. This is a cracker. This was one of my out of the whole series. This was one of the best ones. Is lack of congruence when their body language doesn't match their words. Now, and so if you tie that to what I said about extra stuff as well, you don't need to say certainly and all these extra filler words. In episode 2, they asked Tim the question, "Are you over your ex?" And Tim said, "Oh yeah, I'm over 100%. Yeah, certainly, definitely."
Right.
The whole time he's shaking his head no, so there's no congruence with his body language and his words. And what's he saying? Oh yeah, I'm over it 100%, certainly, definitely. All the extra filler words. I don't know the backstory and everything. I deliberately never checked those. But at that time, his physiological changes and the combination of his words, his facial expressions and everything, there was not congruence. So in some extent, he had some hangover to do with his ex. And so that's
Right this moment, Sarah just did a cartwheel of joy. Sarah, whatever her name is. So
Oh,
you
so the thing
fucking
is,
told
I
ya.
didn't know that I was doing these. Who was seeing these? I thought, like, when people said it to me, I thought no, and then I did the first one, and then I think I got messages, and then I didn't even know TikTok. The most embarrassing thing was doing my first live on TikTok and not knowing what to do and where to swipe. But anyway, I suppose I used that part to say, regardless of the source, reality TV is great for these sort of things. And the best learning you get for people that have some interest. So if you've got people that are going to listen to this that want to learn from a behavior point of view, I tell people in my training courses, watch a reality TV show with the sound off, but have a pen and paper beside you. Write down the time that you see a sudden change in the facial expression or body language or whatever when you're doing it with no sound. Then when you watch it with the sound, you will connect that. And what happens is, I won't bore you with this stuff, but there's a part of your brain called your RAS, your reticular activating system. It works out what you put conscious focus on. Like, you don't need to think about brushing your teeth. You don't need to think about, driving your car. When you do that and you watch a show with no sound and you just pick up, oh, there's a trigger there. I've seen a really strong facial expression. When you then watch it with the sound, from the very next day, you'll be more attuned to picking up facial expressions. So reality
Mm.
TV is great for that sort of stuff. But there was some great things from the episodes as well.
Well, I've got a whole bunch of juicy nuggets all about Married at First Sight, which I'd love to unpack with you. But
Yeah.
we've got about 5 minutes before the Zoom link wraps up. So don't you mind, before we get into some real serious juicy stuff, do you mind if I send you another link?
Okay.
And that way we're ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, good to go, mate. Yeah, I'm happy to look
All
to
right.
run through there to talk about any specifics. All good.
Thank you for joining us once again, Scott. And I must remind you and remind the listeners, I don't pay for bloody anything. So I'm keeping this podcast going on a $0 budget, including the free subscription to Zoom. That's how we roll here. All right. So what we were talking about before is Married at First Sight.
Yep.
Obviously it's got my interest, and I come across some of your videos analyzing yours truly, me. So that was
Yes.
quite fascinating. So if you don't mind, I've actually got a snippet of one of your assessments of me and just seeing if
Hmm.
we can review it. So it
Happy
goes
to.
for a couple of minutes. So I'm going to play it into the microphone and see how we go.
Okay.
Okay, getting the video up right now.
Hair twist.
And we're starting.
New couple.
Can you hear that
Ellie and
okay?
Ben. A couple of things in there. Obviously, you saw part of Ellie's situation dealing with stress, which was the hair twist. We also can do that for hygiene gestures, but that'll be another post. We'll share some content about that. So some things here where we'll delve a little deep. Now, the situation was Ben was questioned about multiple times. Is he there for the right reasons? Here's my thoughts. A couple of things. His response where he said that the opportunity, it's an outstanding opportunity in every form. There was the first flag. The thing is, even though there was a couple of other ones, there's two real standouts for me. The standouts are this. Firstly, when he was responding to one of the other questions, he turned and he looked at Ellie straight in the eye and he said, the experiment and you are now my priority. Ordering is very, very important. It wasn't you are my number one priority or you and the experiment. It was the experiment and you are my number one priority. The other early flag I'm going to say there is when he said about the change of life, he said from a priority point of view, relationships are his priority, not this relationship or love, relationships. And the very next sentence obviously went into about the fact that he lost one of his very close friends. That's why the words relationships were used and have been repeating. That means he might be looking at resetting himself and focusing on a range of different relationships. The other part, though, that really stood out, aside from saying the experiment and you, when the producer said, are you there for the right reasons? He said, yeah, I think so. And you're going to know this from my earlier posts. He shook his head no. So there wasn't congruency between his words and his actions. So where I think this is coming, I think you're going to find that there's going to be a lot more that comes out of it from Ben. And I think as you drill down there, the other thing I'm going to say that, and this is the part that people aren't going to like, some of you may have seen Ben and straight away didn't have a genuine liking of him. Something just thought, there's something not right. I know some of the people that I was watching the show with tonight said that. Here's the reason why. Ben's natural smile has got a smile on one side. It's lopsided. It aligns with contempt. Contempt is the only one-sided emotion. So because that's his natural smile, when you're seeing that, that can be a bit off-putting. Subconsciously, we realise and we recognise that. So there's more to it. The facial micro-expressions, the non-verbals, plus the words we say are really, really powerful. And hopefully from using this forum, you're starting to learn some more of those. Thanks.
And here we are. So who would have thought we could actually do a podcast in this moment about someone who has analyzed yours truly? So thank you. I feel a bit privileged because of that. So thank you. But I agree with some of it.
You're the only person that reached out and said, like, you know what, hey, I thought I felt this. Let's have an open discussion about it. And in the spirit of well as saying, let's chat about it. So, for the people listening, like for this as well, my integrity is very, very important to me. At no time have you said, let's have a look and feel like you're this way. You've said, let's just have good open, like you're chatting, going through. So, mate, I appreciate it. That's why I was keen to have the chat with you. Even the feedback you've had during this time. So, yeah, mate, let's unpack it. Where do you want to start?
Well, just sort of recapping, am I there for the right reasons? So I don't know. The show was on a number of months ago and I was in it or on it, filming wise. God, it's nearly 10, 11 months ago now. So a fair bit of time has passed, but to the best of our memories I can recollect, what was your vibe that it wasn't there for the right reasons?
Well, I mean, so to give you some of the feedback on some of those specifics, then, I said earlier on, and if this is going to be stitched on the first part of the podcast, when I said to you about when people are asked questions, they run back to that mental filing cabinet, they run it through a filter and then they come back. Ordering of words is important. Word selection and word placement is important. And it tells it a lot that there's a complete separate discipline around that. To give you an example before I loop it back to some of the things that you've said, if you said to me, Scott, did you have a good weekend? What did you do on the weekend? And I said to you, Lee and I went to Luigi's restaurant. It was great. Or I came back to you and said, I went with Lee to Westfield Liverpool. It was great. With both sentences, I said the words "it was great" and what I did. With the first one, I said Lee and I went to. I put myself next to her and said the word "I." That was a positive experience. The second where I said I went to Westfield Liverpool with Lee, it was great. I've put her at the opposite end of the sentence. The word ordering is important. So when some of the things said about priorities and your first point of call was the experiment and you, I like other priorities from that point of view under that situation where there's some element of stress and duress, what we release, and with that focus on your words, then your ordering then was put forward saying about the experiment being more important. And at that time, so obviously at that time in the dynamic, like as well, at that time in your priorities, and maybe until you'd forged a bond, the words that you put forward then indicated the experiment was more important than your relationship or the dynamic with Ellie. And then when said about the question, I think about, are you here for the right reasons with the congruence as well? That, yeah, I think so. And then supported with that. That's part of that physiological leap. Now, I said in the other part I said about when you see and feel things is about what else drives that, like on what else. The other part you heard me mention was there'd obviously been a circumstance where that you lost somebody close to you, and even when we're speaking about that, then there was a change with your expression. So that's obviously like something that gravitated like and was heavy with you. So what that means is that when you tie that with the sentence you said, relationships are my focus. That's why I meant the words that I said like in there as well.
Mm.
That at that time, the priorities, when I say different priorities, the right reasons, part of it may have been as part of when you're with that reset. So right now with things with who I am and what I've gone through, getting myself right and doing things is more important to me than the dynamic with you, Ellie. And if MAFS is going to allow me to do that until you forge a connection or whatever, then that's where your order priorities were. So from doing that, like in hearing it, I'm comfortable with what I put forward without knowing the full story. Because for me, I don't, if I know the full details and background and lead up, that can affect my bias in the words that you showed and the behaviors at that time. I don't believe the relationship with Ellie was your number one priority compared to some of the other things you had going on there.
Fair assessment. I guess certain things that might influence that bias is we actually got married 4 times. So that means we stood on the altar and said it all, and we went off and high-fived my mum and my dad, and then we do it again. And then do it again. And my wedding vow speech, like I wrote it, but it got amended 5 times by producers.
Wow.
So we don't always get to choose our own words. I had things in there that said, you got to pull that out, you got to reword it. And I'm ADHD dyslexic. So I read things off the cuff. I write dot points and bullet points, and I just freestyle. For me to stand there, and I had an A4 piece of paper written like that, and they said, Ben, you can't do that. And then they had these palm cards in front of me, and they condensed it down to 7 parts, and they actually stuck together twice. So I went from page 5 to page 7. I missed parts. And
wow.
Say it again. So I'm sitting up there going, fucking hell. So relationships may or may not have come out. I remember being a bit frustrated because I was hoping for it to be organic, and then I'm like, this is actually a TV show. I need to do that again and again and again. And you get very agitated. I was getting agitated. So I'm curious to know, knowing that information, would that affect the quote unquote reality of the scenario? Because they were my words. They were just hyper amended.
Yeah, I think so. Part of with those, so does it affect? I mean, more context gives you more, as in what may have driven that. And so, for example, when you mentioned about losing somebody close to you, then regardless of the person that was in front of you, if it was jolting for you and caused you an importance to think, you know what, the value of time, what service are my mothers, the people to have around me, relationships being more focused. So there's other things that drive the words we say. The fact about from the repetition point of view, though, if that same question was put to you other times, you may have some boredom and things with it. But the word ordering and selection is something that normally happens rapidly and without conscious thought. That's why when you're looking from deception and things, keeping people's brain thinking or whatever, they'll leak things about different tense or like for whatever else. So whilst there's lots of things that can drive our behavior and actions, I'm like I said, I'm comfortable with that position, like with the words. I would believe at that time, tying to some of the things that you obviously now, and even seeing the response when we've talked about what happened previously, you were losing someone. I'd say that Other things were probably more front and center for you and the relationships around you more generally. And that would have been part of why you were saying that, where it sits. The other part, I suppose, is if you think more about it when you're saying about the wording, because that's one part saying about the relationships. So, I mean, there's multiple things, but, because of that and what could drive that. The thing, though, about the ordering, which is very clear and direct about, the experiment and you're my number one priority. And I obviously, like, we're hearing like that then, but from memory, when that was quite strong for saying that, you said that with equal speaking cadence, no change in intonation or whatever, that wasn't under vocal stress or duress. And whilst there could be different things, people may jump to thinking the experiment isn't again, you're my number one priority, thinking if the experiment's a priority, people may think, oh, it's going to be more followers, more whatever. There could be multiple things you could have been thinking at the time. The experiment is going to cause me to have a good, long, hard look at myself. The experiment is going to force me to be away from some of the things I was doing and reset or whatever. I don't know what that was for you, but just my belief based on that, on how even your speaking was, and for with those as well at that time, I believe that the experiment was more important to you than the Ellie dynamic for whatever reason that was to you.
Hard to say, because I try to remember in that specific moment. If I got married yesterday, then we're like, oh yeah, I remember how I was feeling. But I also disagree a bit, because I am so ready to say, I very much agree about my relationships. When I first found that, I was like, holy shit, that is on point. Because I've been so career focused for such a long period, and understanding the value of relationships, and like I said before this podcast, hanging out with my niece and nephew because they're bloody family. So making that priority. Yeah. So it's been super important to me. But I think that is quite fair. I always want to have that number one partner, but was it with Ellie? It's a tough one, eh?
So that's what I'm saying. Like at that time, and I mean, it's a long time ago. Like for you, and I'm doing part of this from memory. Like at that time. So the outcome is from what I saw there, and then so I was checking, did that seem forced, rehearsed, was there changes? So you seem pretty comfortable, is in mentally for with that response about the experiment, and you. But as I said, there's multiple reasons for that, as in what it was causing for yourself, aside from opportunities or any of these sort of things. So yeah, the other part, let's talk about the part and for with your mouth and that as well. So here's the part that
I feel like Sylvester Stallone.
Well, no, not at all. So the thing is that I mentioned before about the different facial expressions that we have. Now here's the thing about facial expressions: they go from 1/25th of a second up to 4 seconds maximum. So 1/25th to 4 seconds. Now with some of the things with the smile, remember, I never seen anything about you previously or anybody on there as what I'm seeing. So the times when I'm seeing the smile and your sometimes stronger smile is when you're with the experts, another part as well. There were things that you would have disagreed about. Contempt is the only one-sided your part. So when people see a lot and they're obviously seeing the edited bits, that one-sided your smile is the same thing that you see from Simon Cowell on the reality TV shows and these sort of things. And because it's a natural thing being the only one side of emotion, it makes people go, oh, hang on a sec. That doesn't come across as genuine happiness. Now, if you do that to a comparison to now what's in your social feeds now with your relationships now when you're doing things and the beach walks and all that sort of stuff, when you get a moment, have a look at yourself now, at your smiles now, compared to some of your smiles then on the show, you will see a completely different smile. You will see that you're smiling more with your eyes and genuine emotion and smile, and you're not showing the same thing. So there would have been some element of bent up frustration or whatever else or other parts that at times then when you're seeing and a few times there, that contempt, your base smile, where sudden disliking something about the environment or what was going on. Might have been the cameraman, might have been the experts, might have been whatever else.
Oh, I was getting the shits at the end of it. I was so excited and so amazed at that wedding. I was on no sleep because I was so excited the night before. But what actually happened post that wedding bit, I was outside doing what's called voxies and interviews for about 2 hours, all sorts of questions, and the sprinklers came on. It was a bit of a production fuck up because it was at this beach club in Maroubra. Sprinklers come on, they've got lighting and all sorts, and they're like, trying to save thousands of dollars of equipment. And then we did a few more after that, and I was beat. I understand it's a show. You didn't want to do it. So like, yeah, for the right reasons. Like, fucking, I don't know. Like, yeah, like, can we move on? Like, it was like 1 a.m. at that stage. Yeah, so that's why I guess it's with context. You're
Well,
here for the right reason. Like, fucking, yeah, okay.
So
Can we move
even
on?
that so the thing about this is like the scan principle and checking like what else. So all I could see from the outcome from that time where there was lack of congruence where you're saying like you're the no for these things and some doubt like them for with your words. But think about the different things that could mean. Am I here for the right reasons for doing like for doing that? Well, you know what? If part of what I'm doing now is focusing on the best version of me and I'm not at that spot yet, is it the right time for me for doing this? Maybe not. Okay, is about the fact that if there's things that have occurred that, if it's post recently what's occurred with some other circumstances, should I have been best spending my time on other parts or other dynamic? Is this causing me to jolt now to think about other relationships? So there's a whole range of things about,
Mm.
am I here for the right reasons? It could mean. You notice I don't drill down as to what I like think they are because I don't know your background or the context. All I could say from that time is during that time when they said that, saying that there was because it was the reason I remember it is because it was quite strong. Like literally, it was here for the right reasons. Like, oh yeah, I think so. It was a real. It wasn't as bad as Tim's from that second episode,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
just remember it being like you're quite a strong one, and that could have mean at the same time thinking like and right reasons. Same thing if you weren't glued in with that dynamic yet, or any of these sort of
Mm.
things. So multiple things drive. All I can share is about for what I see, what drove that. Really only you would know.
Yeah, like long story short, because I was getting grilled by Ellie's cousin, like here for the right reasons. It was fully set up.
Yep.
He had a microphone in the ear the whole time, and he was guided by producers what to say. And I was like, I could figure that out. And looking around, and it was all set up. And I'm like, for fuck's sake! So I had a lot of here for a reason. I'm like, yeah. So
Yep.
yeah, but
Mate, we're
yeah,
having a good
yeah,
understanding. I got to ask you because there's some
yeah,
things that if I had a chance to speak to each of the cast, there's always one or two things I'd love to say. I love to ask you about that, like in that moment. There's one particular part through there that when I saw this, like as well, I had to ask. There was one thing in when you were talking about the part, and mate, this is much for my own curiosity, like to
yeah,
check for that as well. There was something that you're saying about when you came in and you brought in like for with the guitar for it as well. And rather than just place the guitar down, you said, I'll just leave this here, but it was done dead center in the dead center of the camera frame. And so because of adding the extra words, I'll just place this here as you put the guitar down, part of me thought that's a set action where he's leaving the guitar dead center in front of the camera for for reminding about the guitar in it as well. So part of me went, if I ever get a chance to speak to this guy,
yeah.
I need to ask him, did he place that guitar dead center front of the camera frame to be so well positioned? Because you couldn't have placed it any better.
Was that in the backstory?
No, no, it was in the actual episode when you came in with the guitar and you were speaking to Ellen and you said, here, I'll just place this here. So you made it sound like I'm just randomly putting it down, but you put the guitar dead center on the actual, I think, the end of a kitchen bench, and it was right in the camera light. And it was like, yeah, hey, here's my guitar and that as well. It just,
Well,
anyway, you might
like,
remember it.
no, I to be honest, I don't. But what I do recall, what producers do, you get approved what you can and can't do, what you can and can't say. Like, for example, that scene with Lucinda and Timothy writing like, "Oh, Jack's full of shit."
Yep.
They got to get approval for that. I had
Okay.
ideas I wanted to do with Ellie, and they go, "Sorry, you're not allowed. You're not allowed." See this? This is not allowed because of branding. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that's so restricted what you can and can't do. So I'm like, fucking, how much reality is this? I'd swear a lot. And they'd say,
Yeah.
Ben, you can't say that. You got to reword it, reword it, reword it. I'm like, fuck, but this is me being me. We've got to bip it out. Like, this isn't an R-rated show.
Yeah.
So like a lot of that stuff, I'm thinking, so, all right, I've got to be down this
Yeah.
tunnel. So,
The mold.
but no, but as far as the guitar goes, possibly. I thought, fuck, that'd be
Yeah.
cool. To be honest, I don't know. I think at that time when I was having serious chats with Ellie, it was fucking hard and it was really intense for me. And that was 100% my focus. Like I was talking to some friends, getting feedback.
Yep.
What should I do? Brainstorming ideas to try to figure out what the hell can I do to move forward. And for
Yep.
me, that part was sort of true. What I said about music being therapy for me, really is.
Yep.
So, because you don't have your phone and your
Good.
board is batshit, so I played so much guitar, and I'm not a
Yep.
musician. And how a bloody song made it on there, I don't know.
Wait, you know what? Same thing. You'll never hear as any other podcast. I have not got a musical bone in my body. I've got a harmonica like you hear that I try and learn just to muck
Hey.
around just because the fact that I'm shocking at it. No idea. But the thing is, I get that part, just whatever, something different outside of what you do that's just like a little bit soothing. So yeah. Anyway, I just thought
Well,
I'd share it. Yeah, but the other part, like
yep.
is even with them saying, we talk about words. So at that time, notice the word you sense. I was asking for those what I can do to move forward. So notice that was about not what I can do to move us forward or that we can do to move forward. So that's part of you wanting to be as a better person, not necessarily what we can do to make this relationship like thing. It's I spoke to friends about what I can do to move forward, which is part of that what you've said about self-improvement. But you see what I mean by word selection and other parts give some meaning as to focus. At that time, you're saying to friends, I'm stuck, I don't know what to do. It wasn't just about help me, what can I do with the relationship? It's what can I do to move forward? You just naturally said that then. In other words, what can I do to be a better version to do that sort of stuff? So
I fall short. Yeah. I fall short with that so many times. Like I've got this thought or emotion that I'm trying to convey and I choose the wrong words and I find myself in the fucking shit all too often. If that makes sense.
I think it was the right words.
Yeah.
It was the right words because what you said was you're asking them and said, well, what can I do to move forward? So in other words, you're not saying to them, give me some tips to quickly, like to fix, to treat this relationship or if it was about give me some things to move forward. So what you just said this has been a good, relaxed conversation was your genuine things. You were asking for some friends about feedback. What can I do to move forward? Like you to prove to be better. So in other words, that wasn't tied part to the relationship. That's what I'm trying to give you some indication. The words that we say, whether it's single or plural, what we select, we say from the head and heart when we come from that filing cabinet. That was genuine. And it was you saying then, or reach out to a friend saying, what can I do to move forward? That was basically saying, what can I do to be to improve, to be a better version of myself, to then I can work out what I can do with the next steps there, or if it's right for me. So, mate, it was the right words, 100%.
So, speaking of moving forward, I did a little Instagram thing saying, hey, anyone got some questions for Scott? Would you believe Jack Dunkley has sent through a video message for yours truly? Are you ready for this one?
I am. Yeah, of course. Yeah, 100%.
All right.
Yeah, definitely.
He's actually got two. This one goes for a minute and a half, so I'll play it. Hang on, to do it. Sure. 1 second. Yep. Let me know if you can hear it okay.
Hey, Scott.
Yeah, 1 sec.
Hey, Scott. How you going, mate? Jack here. Welcome to Ben's podcast. Ben's just reached out and asked me if I'd have any questions for yourself. I've got a lot of time for Ben, so I thought, get involved and have a crack. So here we go. Full transparency, don't really know a lot about your background, but I'm going to have a crack and say it's to do with human psychology, behavioural patterns, analysing communication styles and things like that. And I don't know, but I'm sure you've got years and years of experience under your belt gathering information and analysing some data and research, and that makes you an expert in this field to comment, I'm sure. So my question today would be, how do you find it relevant when I'm sure all this research and the studies you have done would be on real life people in real life situations and scenarios? However, now you're analysing people from a TV show such as Married at First Sight, and we are obviously under these extreme parameters. It's not really reality. For example, we have cameras in our face. We are heavily influenced by the producers. We are tired. We are hungry. We know people are coming at us because they want to be on TV. We're worried about how we're going to look on TV. Again, the question would be, where's the relevancy from a real life situation where you're analysing someone in their whole being, in normality, whereas you're analysing someone on a TV show under these parameters? That's my question. Love to hear the answer. Cheers, mate.
Yeah, excellent.
What do you reckon?
Yeah, a couple of points for that. I mean, one, first, thanks for jumping on. I didn't know if he'd seen any of the videos and these sort of things. So
apparently so.
Always happy to it. Yeah, so from the relevancy point of view, regardless whether it's somebody that same as I do the feedback I mentioned to you on Baby Randy or on Fark or Haas, and when people that are getting interviewed for crimes or other parts that are under high level stress and duress, regardless of the circumstance, as I mentioned to you earlier on, I don't want to know full backstories for full makeup. What I give is the feedback based on getting a feel from what I see first of someone's communication baseline. what the way that they communicate, their gesture pattern, how much space they take. I was looking, for example, yourself compared to Collins, compared to Richard, compared to Jack, when you're sitting in the lounge, not in the front of camera stuff, when you're the one speaking to the experts, when you guys are in the ones in the lounge with everybody where you think the cameras aren't on you, how are you sitting there? And are you taking space? Are you taking other people's space from a confidence dominance point of view? So when I look at people's non-verbals, it's not just these parts. The other thing is from the context is regardless of the background elements and from the real point of view, there was enough of sections to see when there was questions and actual responses that it was showing the timeliness of the response, the cognitive load, and all the other gestures that come with it. So for Jack, for example, some of these things from the wording, like your point of view, I'm happy to talk about some of the specifics of that and post that if you even want to have a chat about it. I'm happy to do a debrief even more, with him. You know what I mean? Some of the examples, for example, with Jack, when I was open and vocal about saying about some things with this controlling behaviors, there was times where there was 15 and 20-second and sometimes uncut segments where showing some of the interactions, like if with Tori, he would change where his hand was, his grip, and some tapping and other elements, which is some types of controlling behavior, either reminder of script, follow these words, and for these sort of things. This was before the last episodes, and there was some vocal things shared. 100% there's pressures in there, and I'm really glad he was so open, saying here's some of the things we're worried about, what's happening, how we look, the pressures, and I didn't know about the food and hungry, like your sort of thing.
Oh yeah, fuck.
But
I don't
the
eat.
reality,
Yeah.
but the reality point of view is basically like they're getting a feel for in the relaxed environment and then things how they're communicating, and then seeing with some of these interactions. And but I know there's a lot of pressure in different parts, but on some of the responses, like in there, and that could be something as simple as changing in eye contact, blink rate, or for whatever else, gives the indication. So people will be having a conversation. And if you and I started having a conversation and I took things to an area that you weren't comfortable with, you didn't want to see here, you'd see some of the same things that occurred like with Jack, where his blink rate would spike, which happens out of severe discomfort. What I told you about dropping the chin in those power zone areas, there was things that during interactions that were long enough to pick up a statement and a response based on the stimuli that showed those. They're the things I commented on. I wouldn't talk about background or any of these sort of things that lead up because I don't know. I don't know backstory. I don't know the context.
So
I
you're
don't know
saying
what
it doesn't play into the role of being different to the body. Like if you're under pressure, if you're under a lot of fatigue, like I remember saying like I've had a tooth pulled out, so I keep doing this. You know, so understanding the backstory, the context would be appropriate, but a lot of people don't understand that for reality TV. You know,
And the
it's
thing is, looking at the
so much
graph that you
behind the
said about
scenes that we don't know.
But even so, you talk about some things they say you said about for with your tooth. So in other words, if I was watching for long enough for that time, that would be part of your baseline for doing that. Or we all know people that have that jumpy leg or these sort of things. And so it's because when we're seeing enough of some segments and that 10 to 15 seconds when they're communicating with others, when they're in a relaxed manner, what's their speaking style, gestures, all these sort of things. Then when you see, I say when people are squeezed a little bit, whatever the situation is where there's some discomfort, when there's deviations based on some of the questions. Some of the other best examples of that is Eden. Like when there was a things like you for with Eden as well, and she was under some stress and like in some of the duress there. Her baseline didn't include self-pacifying gestures. Anytime people start to do repeat physical touching, that's not part of their baseline, that's stress and discomfort. If touching turns to scratching, it's getting escalated. When there were some things about that Eden had some stuff that she was going to share and wasn't sure if she should or whatever, and there was some pressure around there, there was, even though there was snippets of 10 to 15 seconds during the one interaction, her communication changed to self-pacifying, then went to scratching and then escalated to scratching. And so I knew in 10 seconds, this subject, regardless of any other pressures and whatever her baseline was, has caused severe discomfort, like in stress. It's the same when you get anger, happiness, sadness, or whatever. These physiological changes show. So to answer like your Jack's question, it just means it adjusts your baseline. Your baseline during some of these interactions is continually fatigued, under pressure, concerned about like what the perception like your part will be. So when we see some of those flashes or deviations, that's where I can say at this time, here's where there is deviation in these elements of the body language, and it was only around these words of these items. So that's where that relevance is because you can do that over a short period of time when you're seeing those.
Jack's got two questions. You ready for question number 2?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, shoot.
All right. Just going to dig this out on my phone.
Yep.
All right.
One more follow-up question.
Wait for it.
One more follow-up question with a bit more detail would be great. How can you analyse one's behaviour or reaction to an interaction with another person on the show when the edit is real and you watch it back as a viewer and things are not in the correct sequence? So I might be answering someone's question or interacting against someone's attack on the show, and we watch it back. We've been there, we've done it. I can tell you now, my reactions, my answers aren't always in sequence with the appropriate interaction that was had live on the day or the night. So do you take that into consideration as well? Last one for you, mate. Got to call you out. I watched a clip of you saying I was misleading and I was lying, untrustworthy because I was playing with my little earring. Buddy, that didn't mean shit. I play with my earring all the time. I do it at work. I do it at home. Probably do it before I make love. It's got nothing to do with me trying to fool someone or tell a fib. Tell you that now.
Happy to respond to both. So a couple of
It's a juicy one, isn't it?
No, like that's fine. I mean, for whatever reason, that stuck and resonated with him. Same as when you said, even in the lead up and questions, Scott's reviewed like my mouth. There's different things for what I will say that for whatever reason stick with people. Plus, let's be honest and open about it. Part of the communication style, the word in the buddy, mate, and I don't know your background, whatever. Part of that is there's some pride and ego element behind that, which is regardless if that's who he is or image. Either way, you've always got to meet people where they are and accept that. You know what I mean? The situation, as I said to you, is any time that when there's discomfort, severe discomfort or deceptive behavior, cortisol gets released in the body. It gets absorbed throughout the body, and Jack will know cortisol because of his training and the effect it has on muscles. It gets absorbed in the large muscle groups, not around the face. So it slows down saliva production and it makes the face more sensitive. So when I said about touching your ear, and you do that other times, I didn't say at any time, because he touched his ear, he's lying. That's not the case at all. When there's repeat touching around the face compared to their baseline during a time of discomfort, that's driven often from that cortisol release. So that's what's caused that part, is that during this time, same as women touch their neck because they're self-pacifying gesture and covering a power zone. That thing about touching the face, if this is of interest to you, mate, read up on Durham University. They did a study when mothers still had babies in the womb. When the mothers are placed under stress and duress, the babies would start touching this part of their face a lot more than the other babies. It's a genetic response we have to discomfort. So he shows a range of those items. The other part is that he does what we call looking askance or validating glances. So some of the things when he was getting asked questions by the experts, rather than the direct answer, he would be saying that, but then you'd be looking across for other people. In other words, look, did you hear what I'm saying? And
I guess, what I can understand where Jack's coming from, and anyone who's been on reality TV. Actually, my previous podcast with Jesse, we spoke about this. Like when I meet someone else who's done a reality TV show, you get the nod of like, you get it. You get you get the magic with continuous re-edits, continuous. It is reality. It is us being us. It is not scripted. However, it's highly produced. So you're in that moment of. It's so hard to explain. You're in the moment of being guided on what you can and cannot say. So I said things and answers which got cut out and said, Ben, we want you to say that again. So I'm like, so my behavior might have changed, not in the context of the situation, but in the context of like, really? So that's something that I picked up on where I'm like, fuck, like, and there's so much behind the scenes that we understand. And what Jack spoke about is things are edited scene, and then 10 minutes later, they've asked a question and give an. I made a funny TikTok ripping off Jono. I inserted myself in one of his interviews, just taking the piss out of him. Like that's a clear one to pick out because they've got continuous edits repetitiously. So to determine this behavioral analysis based on things that's out of context, that would be really
different camera
hard.
frames. Yeah, so I mean, I didn't. I answered the second bit rather than the first bit. Like your first, I apologize for that. So yeah, do we take that into account? 100%. Because the thing is, regardless, and I'm never going to get on MAFS or have a role with the experts anyway. So, hey, let's speak freely about it. The editing was crap. When there'd be editing conversations, there'd be different drink levels, different settings, like for the table, different food on the table in between conversations. So
Yeah.
anybody who was paying any close attention to it, and mate, if I had another camera, you'd see here, I've got the DaVinci video wheel. So when I'm doing those reviews for facial micro expressions, I'm slowing everybody down and dialing frame by frame for a mix of this sort of stuff, like as well. So yeah, I would take that into account. A lot of the things that I would put forward would be the ones where there was the 7 to 10 second rolling parts where they're still in frame and responding to some of these things. There was a lot of things where I could have shared a lot more thoughts based on what I saw, but I had concerns that the fact that there was a tweak with a whole range of these edits in there, and some of them were really. I mean, you guys might have seen it. There's Facebook pages and groups about the bad edits, that sort of stuff.
It's hard.
So I get that. I get the frustration too.
It is hard for us, and as part of the nod of like somebody who's gone on a reality TV show and understand the holistic side of things and how it's put together. We've got that knowledge, and then we watch the final product, and we're like, it's not how we remembered it. It's not how we felt in the moment. And yet that's the public perception. So for us, for me, it was very challenging. And, that's one of the reasons why I love podcasts, because I am not editing out, hey, I'm going to send you a Zoom link. Like, this is as raw as it gets. And that's why personally I love podcasts, because the authenticity to it. And I guess for the viewer out there or the analyst, and understanding that it is highly edited and highly produced for that outcome, I think is very important, and it is challenging for us because some people aren't that smart. Like, people look at it, think this is a legitimate documentary, and it's like
yeah. I get it.
That's
but
the biggest challenge.
The conversation we said before, and so we're saying about snippets. Do we need time? Hearing what you said before, that part that was earlier on, you said I reached out to friends and said about how I can move forward. Even if I only heard 8 seconds of that conversation, that was even speaking tone balanced with the downward inflection. So you meant and were behind the words that you said in the same relaxed speaking cadence you had when we started. So there was no emotional attachment or anything. That was just clear honesty about that. That one sentence tells me at that time you wanted some self-reflection and improvement. That wasn't about anything else. That's the example of what I mean. Now, if you tie that to what I'm saying from a facial expression, body language, all these other things, people have an awareness that they think, unless you're sitting here and you know where I went to school, what I have for breakfast, which order I put my socks on, you don't understand. That's not my job, and that's not what I share. There's other things that I do when I'm doing cycle of life or open source intelligence reviews and a whole range of other things. This is giving behavioral feedbacks on deviations from based on what I'm seeing then and there. And you can do that in small snippets. So that's where the relevance is. It just makes it a harder baseline because the thing is, some people are more reactive. Sometimes it makes it easier for the deviation because they have a shorter fuse because they're hungry and tired or whatever. So they will respond more in reality TV than they would in real life because you've got a bit more patience. You're a bit more relaxed and content. You know what I mean? So that's why reality TV is great for picking up body language changes because everyone's more overt with their gestures. Yeah, you look at that because now that I'm looking and having some discussion with people, you look at videos of how they are now compared to on there, they communicate differently. People that are short and sharp and edgy with their gestures in the reality TV part because they're under pressure aren't the same outwards. So that's why I look for deviations once we assess that.
Pressure does funny things to people, don't they? You see it in sporting games. You see it I didn't handle that pressure, to be honest, as well. I mean, I'm having a relaxed chat here and I feel more comfortable than I was as opposed to being roasted by the expert with bloody cameras everywhere. So for me personally, I've got a lot of more juice I'd like to be able to unpack, in particular some positive stuff. We could have a bit of finish the podcast on a high note. But do you mind if sending another Zoom link?
Yeah, no worries, mate. All good.
And we're back. We are back. All right, part 3. Now, you're the first person I've ever interviewed in this style process. We're up to 3 parts. The other people have wrapped it up in at least under 2. Some people haven't even made one Zoom link.
Wow. I feel honored. Thank you.
Absolutely got that's what I mean. I feel we can talk for hours on this. But what I'd like to continue talking about is some more Married at First Sight stuff, and then we'll wrap up the podcast with hopefully some more fun, positive, silly stuff which I've prepared for. So it's interesting to learn that you've yeah, you really watch Married at First Sight, possibly as a fan or a bit of light entertainment, and also I've certainly learned how you always analyze. So, in your professional and personal entertainment opinion, who is the
Yes.
most full of shit person out of every character on the last season of MAFS?
Oh, the biggest and most full of shit, completely.
You can say me. It's fine.
No, like out of with that, I'm going to say the combination of biggest full of shit, but also, in my opinion, shouldn't have been on there was Collins. He was
Really?
so out of line with like a range of things with image versus integrity focus. Um, and I might get disliked for saying this, but I am who I am. He should not have set foot on any of those sort of shows at all. And there was little elements in there that gave some really indication as to how bad he was. We talk about the behavioral stuff, yeah. When he was doing, for example, when with his partner and you're doing the picture rating things,
Yeah.
he was saying about things and saved her for being who number one like he was. What, unless you really looked at that from a behavior point of view, because you look at ordering and the thing as well, he was putting everybody subsequently like in higher parts and then put her at the end and put her like even like a way down lower in physical height, like on the wall. There was so many behavioral things with that guy. He was completely centered about from an image point of view and look at what he could get out of that purely from commercial fan and following. And I think he's followed that up now when he's doing self videos saying, let's have a look about the things that you guys have Googled about Collins. So how he's ended up and what he's doing now, completely aligned with my perception of him throughout.
Oh, I agree. I've caught up with Collins a few times.
Okay.
And I'd say nailed it. It's hard for me to, yeah, I have nailed it. But I also love Collins. He's such a cool dude. Fun to be
He's got a
around.
weird
He's
energy
a
about
lovely
him. He'd be a
guy,
fun
but
guy to be around. Yeah.
yeah, I got to push my personal bias, as you say, which is true. Collins, if listening, I'm fucking sorry, mate, but yeah, like everyone has a reason why we're on the show.
Yeah.
That's why I admitted at the wedding that I acknowledged that there was alternative reasons for being on the show, and apparently I'm the only one in MAFS history. I haven't watched MAFS previously to at least acknowledge or admit that. So that's what I commonly say. I'm the most authentic, full of shit person on the show. Everyone's got a
Good
side
claim to
hustle
fame.
in some shape or form. Credit to them. Like look at Lucinda right now. She's like selling
Doing
out
everything.
tickets, like kicking ass. And Lucinda Light, I don't mean this in a negative way of Lucinda. She's amazing. Lucinda Light's a stage name,
Yeah.
so it's not being real. Is she there
Yeah.
for the right reasons? One would say
Yes.
possibly not,
I,
but
I
she's
and I
kicking
was pretty
goals.
I was open about some of the things that you were with her as well. I mean, compared to initial perception, people thinking, well, she's quirky and what's this chicken wing or whatever else. Some of the interactions and the unedited bits, she showed, and I don't know her background or training and these sort of things, but some incredibly nuanced awareness on how to manage elements of conversations. She had some real I'm gonna say part of the natural talent because how she would phrase things didn't come across as being like trained. It was quite organic. But yeah,
Mm,
mate, you had some very unique personalities on there. Fake psychics, like all that sort of stuff. Like yeah, coming through. So
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. You're spot on, Lucinda. I remember there was a scene where it looked like I was hovering over Ellie, and I remember I was actually talking to Lucinda about travel because I was a European tour leader and she was a European tour leader, and we were talking about, oh, we actually know people. Like it's a bit of a clicky sort of
Yeah, well,
industry. I was
yep,
like, get fucked. She worked for Intrepid. I worked for Expat, and like there's a bit of anyway. I was like, no fucking way. But I find being a tour guide, that's a skill. Like if you need broad people, 2 hours sleep, under pressure, and I know
yep,
that possibly have shaped her skill set in amongst with emceeing, and I don't know a full
yep,
story as well. But she is a superstar. She's just lovely.
yeah,
Yeah, not there for the right reasons. Don't know. She played the game. Look at her. Look at her
yeah,
go. Played the
yeah.
game and
Come on out
fucking
of
left us all in the dust.
it. Oh, some
um,
people it's at different times as well, mate. I mean, out of this now, like I mean, you said before about some things and working on like on yourself, and
yeah.
the same thing, bro. Because I deliberately didn't look at anyone's backs or things when I'm doing this. Be interesting to see the way that you communicate with some of your podcasts and things now compared to who you were. Some of these things would have forced you to do some self-reflection and self-awareness and think, did that work? Did it didn't? How how did that work for me? How was my interactions? Like in these sort of things, you're in a compressed, frustrated, malnutrition like environment doing it for these sort of things, and like you're
Oh
working
yeah,
through, you've got coping mechanisms. So
yeah.
it all leads to growth, mate, for sure.
It did. I learned a lot of things. I found there's also favoritism for people on the show or not, and I things worked. I shot myself in the foot with my own behaviors off camera, which no one even knows. Just means certain
Yep.
producers. It's a whole another story. But I know that
Yep.
transpired in my behaviors on the show, and but other people embraced it. They went well in that regard. So credit to them. Um,
Yeah.
so I'd like to be able to play a bit of a game. As I said, we'll start to
Yeah.
wrap up the pod. So, like I said, I got a feeling we can keep chatting for hours. All
Yeah,
right,
it's been a good
so
relaxed chat.
yeah, totally. Okay, so uh, I'm going to say a word, and can you please tell me the first thing that pops to your head, comes to
Sure.
mind? Donald Trump.
Fake.
Why is he fake?
If you look at the video that I've shared recently, like before he was found guilty and everything came out after his first court date, and he showed exactly the same behavioral tells. He shows what I call fish catching tells. I should be doing all this sort of stuff and working for you, but instead I'm here doing this court case. In other words, this is so important compared to who I am on my self-perception. When he talked about the situation about with the invoice and what he had with his legal trial, with this trial, they're doing this to focus about some invoice, and as he did it, had lip compression, spike blink rate, and everything. So as soon as I saw that video, I said that's where he's going to come undone. The paperwork around there with the payment with invoice, which ended up being a telling thing. They get media training or whatever, but in the height of stress and discomfort, we have behavioral tells. Him same as anybody. So from that one section in there in that video, he had a lot of behavioral tells to say where the concern and focus was and
All right.
his self-focus.
I
Yep.
want to keep the game going, but just want to elaborate a bit more on Donald Trump. Like, based on your analysis, particularly in politics, have you ever
Yes.
been asked to attend a court case or attend, police investigation? You sit behind the mirror and go, read their mind. Like, are they full of shit
No,
or
not
not?
not not from the police point of view. I am asked like you to review and give some feedback on thoughts on a mix of things for I'm going to say different organizations and some government and non-government. I'll have to leave it at that. But yeah, so we do review a lot of those things. You'll find that more will come of that sort of stuff with what I said earlier on about the layered voice technology and these sort of things. Australia compared to America, we're a couple of years behind in having awareness and placing weight with these sort of things. And that's why I had to look overseas for the training. So part of, I suppose, what I'm doing with sharing the math stuff and the courses I'm doing is letting people know here's where you can glean true intent. You can understand where people are. You can really get a feel for that. So no, I haven't done like a lot of the court stuff. I do expert witness reports for a range of things, but not the live look behind the glass. No.
All right, I'll park the. I just thought of good stuff. I'll keep the game going. First thing
Got
to
it.
come to mind when I say ASIO.
ASIO. Yeah, well, I mean, so for supposing looking from the Intel point of view, so yeah, I'd say Intel is the first thing that comes to mind, the first word. And change. ASIO's changed a lot. And
They've
I think if you
evolved, huh?
think, well, I think the other thing is the feedback from ASIO point of view and what they release now. I'm very aligned with what they've put out, where they say our greatest threat and concern used to be terrorism. Now it's the insider threat and disgruntled employees because they're getting people overseas that are using some of the behavioral things that I've learned and trained as well to teach people on social media platforms how to build trust and rapport and then getting information from people that don't even realize they're sharing sensitive stuff. So ASIO, yeah, actually, yeah, evolved. That was a better choice of words than mine. I'll go with yours. Evolved.
Hmm. So, are you saying that people has developed sales strategies effectively to manipulate people into acquiring? Is this? I've heard it through like dating apps. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, no, it's both. So I mentioned to you before, I trained with Lena Cisco that specializes in elicitation, and James Pyle, who specializes in elicitation, which is getting information without asking questions, knowing a personality style. What's the best example? If I wanted to get some information from Jack about something, knowing that he had a pride and ego trigger, and just like he would say, even in his words in that message, Ben asked about any questions. I've got a lot of time for Ben, so that's why I'm doing this. In other words, I don't need to know anything or want to know from you, Scott, but I've got a lot of time for Ben. That's why I'm asking the question. Elicitation would mean rather than asking Jack a question, I may make a statement where I know if Jack's there, I'm saying to you, I know I've said the wrong thing. I know with his personality style, he's going to take the opportunity to correct me in front of you with the information I want to know. So knowing personality styles, whether it's face to face or online, that's what's happening now with, and from the espionage point of view. So people that are disgruntled, people overseas, foreign spies are looking at people with businesses. And I mean, this is too deep a thing for in here, but people with government clearances are sharing on the LinkedIn, I've got this type of government clearance. And so people overseas will start and get different friends and connection requests, and they'll start milking information. So, yep, you worded it well that sales, same as this thing, is about turning rapport and liking into trust and comfort, and then people will start releasing information. So that's exactly what happens.
That's crazy. I understand the sales aspect because I'm not going to lie, I apply it in tourism space.
Of course. Yep.
I sell the shit out of things, and people do it with a smile. But
Yep.
I create win-win outcomes. I don't try to shaft my customers.
Yeah.
First thing comes to mind when I say the FBI.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some. The first thing come to mind is the people that I dealt with, so Joe Navarro and Robin Drake. Both those people have had a massive influence on me with what I've learned from them and their friendship, like you're from Robin as well. So from me, first thing from FBI, Robin Drake and Joe Navarro, the first thing that comes to mind. They have had lasting impact on me.
There you go. First thing coming on when I say COVID lockdowns.
Yeah, wow. First thing that comes to mind, like when you come to COVID lockdown, is just miscommunication. I think so many elements about how things were managed, the different risk landscape that occurred during that time. So yeah, miscommunication would be the first one. Second one would be just now recovery, what it's caused us to stop and think. I set up and haven't really launched it. I was going to do a podcast called The Next New Normal because it's coming. What does that look like and what does that feel like? You know, COVID changed a lot of what I do and people in the industry because companies all of a sudden that thought they were safe and secure thought this has occurred. Let's open our new security plan and business continuity plan that we have. And it says let people work from home. Well, guess what? They got from home. They had no procedures about keeping them safe online with internet, or so hacks went up and all these sort of things. So I look at things probably a bit differently than that.
First thing to come to mind when I say liar, liar, pants on fire.
Liar, liar. Well, as soon as you liar, liar, I think Jim Carrey with the movie.
All right.
The pants on fire. Yeah, I mean, yeah, people get some raised temperature. That's about it.
All right. Pinocchio.
Fake. Nobody's knows. Yeah, you go. But they do touch the upper part of their face as some often as tells from deceptive behavior.
All right. Two more. First thing come to mind when I say Jack Dunkley from Married at First Sight.
First thing that comes to mind. Well, now we just had a recent conversation. So if you'd asked me pre that, I may have said different. No, I'll say the same thing. Yeah, ego. I think the way that he worded these sort of things aligns with some other part. I think that for whatever reason, I think he's got quite a high ego drive with what he does. If that works for him and for the people around him, then great. That's the first thing that comes to mind because I think that's part of what he puts out.
No, you got to have an ego on MAFS.
Oh, everyone has to in some format, but I think it's a matter of, your own space and how you exert that. We talk about how people communicate. Confident people take space, dominant people take yours. And so when people are trying to do that, so that's why from the ego point of view, when he'd communicate, he'd put that extra arm on a lounge or other things that's subconsciously taking people's space. So ego.
First thing come to mind when I say Harrison Boone.
First thing, I mean, I was on his podcast. It was a good, relaxed, your conversation. Yeah, he interviewed me, and we started talking about other parts, but it ended up he was centering it back to how he was misunderstood, and in some other things, and same thing. I just said, look, I'm coming on. I'm just going to be straight, honest, and direct, same as I was with yourself. First thing that comes to mind. Well, I mean, part of it will be the same thing that it's time to move on. If he's got, from what I see now, and a good relationship, and he seems generally happy with these sort of things, why keep talking about what happened and how that was viewed? So the first thing that comes to time is move on, make the most of the opportunities and capabilities you've got.
Yeah, I agree.
Because we spoke quite well. We had some good, relaxed conversation. I got and some things you for as well. It was really good conversation, but it's just when he circles back to some other parts. So make the most of the capabilities and the opportunities you got. Because I had a good conversation with him.
Yeah, me too. I've chatted with him a few times, and for what I've seen on TV versus the conversations I've had, I got all of Harrison. I understand the moments that made TV, but I was like, man, there's a softer side to him, even funny, and even a kind side, which I understood, which I wasn't expecting when I first had a chat with him. Can we
Family-centric. People
move
could
on
be
to the next
guarded.
game?
Shoot. Yeah.
So it's called Two Truths, One Lie.
Okay. Yep. I play this a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, fuck. I've been dying to do this with you. All right.
Oh, well, so
Okay.
let me explain it to you first. So two truths and a lie, what people do with people that do deception detection.
Yeah.
Deception detection works when people where there's some risk of the lie. So in other words, I was on, well, you saw because you shared part of it on the Today Show. What you didn't see because we didn't film it was in the break we did two truths and a lie, and I said the same thing I'll say to you now. People show tells with a lie because if they've got something to lose or there's something to risk with the lie. Playing a bit of a game and we can do things through questioning because I checked cognitive load. I did the same thing where they had prepped things and we're not getting answers. I was right, like you both times. But the reason why is if there's no penalty of the law, you're not protecting. But the difference is if you've stolen something and you're trying to hide that, or you killed someone, or you got other things, then you've got something to lose. So that's when you
Mm,
jump in with the killers and other behaviors. So the game's always fun and we have some fun with it, but you
yeah.
never said the same physiological tells because you've got no buy-in. You're not, regardless
Yeah.
of what you're saying, you're
Yeah,
not going to
you're
lose in the
right.
game, or you're not going to lose anything.
Therefore, yeah, you're spot on because yeah, I'm doing this for a bit of a joke and a giggle, but you're right. It
It's
matters not. Yeah.
it's not going to carry weight. So what we do with these sort of things is I'll ask them questions about it. So for example, the one that I had with the guys on the Today Show, one of the things there was two items, and one of the ones was about the fact that he was allergic to seafood. And so, I said about giving fake information to check a response. So as soon as I heard that, I leaned forward and said, "Oh, me too. I've always wondered what they put in that needle that they give us," and just went silent. So somebody who was either allergic to seafood or knew somebody would be able to respond like it to that. As soon as the response is sit back, drop mouth, cognitive load, delay of 2 seconds, there was your lie. So that's how with these sort of games, you get the feedback is based on changing cognitive load when we ask questions. So it gets a bit boring with drilling there, but that's the reason why.
Would you like to play it and see how we go?
We can give it a crack, mate. Happy to.
All right. Two truths, one lie. So this is about me personally. I
Yep.
used to fart in the bathtub to make a spa bath. I used to peel a raw potato and eat them as a child. I used to listen to Guns N' Roses music from 8 years of age. What's the lie?
Wow. Well, I mean, I would ask some questions around the initial part that I would say, look, it would be so say this, what was the second one again for me?
The second one, so first one, I used to fart in the bathtub to make a spa. Second one, I
Yep.
used to peel raw potatoes and eat them as a child. I used to
Yep.
listen to Guns N' Roses from the 8 years of age.
So, because of time wise, and we've gone at you for with this as well, I'd ask you other questions about then, like you're now Guns N' Roses. Who got you onto that? But let's start with the potato. When you change with the potato, you're putting in extra filler words for there as well about being for with a child, and you had different base expression changes during that time. So that would be the one that I'll ask you questions about first. Why the potato? Like, but we'll start with Guns N' Roses. Who got you into that? Because somewhere in your family, or you must have had some exposure to that sort of music to be liking that.
I remember I used to live in Wagga Wagga. My father's in the Air Force, and there was a Raffy kid over the road, and they had some music, that guitar tone, it's a heavy metal, whatever. I just went, that was great.
Wow.
So
Okay. No
I
problems.
heard it through neighbors.
And the potatoes, how old were you?
5, 6, 8.
That'll be the lie.
No, it's a bathtub.
Well,
Gotcha.
you changed from eight like you're to 5 and 6 in there. So even in the words you were sharing then, so
Yeah,
okay, like
but
yeah,
I
so
was paying
I thought,
attention to what you talk about because of these. So I'm like thinking, how can I act my way through this shit? Because I'm trying to learn how to be a better
yeah, yeah,
bullshitter.
yeah.
Yeah, I never
Good.
farted in the bathtub. That was a joke off a
Not
movie
once.
by Eddie Murphy. So if you asked me about that, I was like, fuck, I was gonna have to. You would have got me on that one. Um, yeah. So next one. Um, uh, you ready? This is Married at First Sight one. I witnessed
Shoot.
chemistry between Jono and Ellie behind the scenes. I
Yes.
witnessed texting between Jono and Ellie behind the scenes. John Aiken spoke down to me off camera. What I felt was an arsehole move.
Ooh. Yeah, and asking what's the lie?
Yep.
Or you
Two
want
of
or you
those are
want to
true.
chronology?
One of those.
Yeah, I was going to say the middle one would come across that you for with the lie. I believe that based on with that and some of the things you would have perceived, and there were some quite overt and obvious things from a chemistry, like your point of view. And I also believe that some of the behavioral traits for how he would act and communicate that would see for with those either would come across as condescending or would have been. So without asking any questions for it as well, I would say the middle one about witnessing the texting, like um, yeah, like I would say without even like asking questions like about it as well. All three are probably true. Like I've got to say, you probably had some awareness or at least like your secondhand part about the texting, but I'd say personally witnessing it probably would have been the texting.
Oh, well done. Yeah, fucking pass that with flying colours. I did witness John O'Neill. That's why I wasn't shocked about pick that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I did not witness them texting whatsoever. So yeah,
Yep.
and John Aiken. So what's your thoughts on John Aiken? In
Yeah, I
that
mean,
you said in a condescending way.
yeah, I mean, so some of the things like from a communication point of view compared to for the other experts, I mean, they're all obviously got like a great like a depth of experience. But I mean, the funny thing was when I started doing the reviews, people saying, "What about the experts? What about the experts?" So what's some of the feedback on the experts, including John? One, I think everybody laughs about why have they got those books in front of them that they never bloody open and never have any dog's ears by the end. So they're obviously just for tell. They're barely even taking notes. The second one, like yeah, for with John with some of these, I think if you look at the way that he would the first three quarters of the season compared to the last quarter, I think he adjusted his personality style. I think he adjusted the way that he communicated in regards to his expressions, the verbiage, the tones that he would have for you know, for these sort of things as well. Whether that was part of led from a direction point of view that we need you to be more firm and be more direct, like an assertive. I think there was flashes for the first time. I've never watched full seasons, but I've seen episodes. But seeing how he dealt with some of the things with Collins, I think that he had a bit of a lack of awareness of how to navigate the dealings with him, and that showed some great level of frustration that came through to the surface there, where you saw built tension and frustration in him that I hadn't seen in any other episodes. So,
Mm.
mate, he's a human regardless of skill and experience. And as I said, yeah, even the things that I've learned, it's still just humans connecting with humans and probably got to see more of his human side with this series compared to others where there were some parts where he was short and sharp and some elements that probably, then adding on that were edited out may have been a bit abrasive. So I could see that happening.
Well, short and sharp, to me, in my opinion, he's just an arsehole.
Yeah.
But that's me.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that scene with Collins. He was not backing down, and that went for fucking like an hour and a half. But what's hard is they got earpieces in their ear, and they always tilt their head one side so you can't see it.
Yep.
And they're not their own words. Like there'll be messages coming to some control room. They go hammer them on this topic, keep going, and
Yeah.
they go give up. It was hammering me on one topic about fucking anger issues and stuff, which is semi-true. None of that made airtime. But I could literally,
Yeah.
because when you're on the couch, you can bloody hear the microphone. And you're just
And hear
thinking,
their
and
prompting.
yeah, and John Aiken puts a finger in the air, and you're like, you got to wait for 15 seconds, and they're getting the
Yes.
do-do-do-do-do-do messages. I'm like, this is a bit bullshit, isn't it? So, but yeah,
So what's your thoughts then? So think about like it then left the field. So some of the things, I said to you now about word ordering and these sort of things. And to be honest, I didn't know that about how much prompting like the experts got. My
yeah,
version with that, the things like I'm saying to you live, I would literally watch the episode, hit record on my mobile phone and say, here's everything that's in my head and heart. But the same thing as we've been talking stuff and I'd say, hey, you've just said that. Here's what I think you mean by that. That's where there's power with these sort of shows that I haven't even thought of. Imagine
yeah,
sitting across from people and saying, you've said this, here's some of these things now, and I'm seeing these parts. Let's talk about how that's coming across and how you're showing like for these things. And you've got a wonderful opportunity where you wouldn't get I'm mindful in how I say this because I'm not saying this. Nothing I do is self-promoting. You haven't heard me say about my services, company website, that stuff. It's not about that. But this is the only way that I can explain this. You wouldn't get 30 to 40,000 people jumping on some of the videos I did to find this if they weren't interested in understanding a bit more about human behavior and
mm,
how can we better connect with others? How can we understand others? You've got such an important platform there and a way to be able to do it where taking people to task early, mentioning some of these things and other parts, and as well, people can go, oh, you know what? I've walked away with some learnings because that's a lot of the feedback I was getting in the comments. If you look at the comments, and things on the TikTok videos is people saying, "Oh, I want to learn more about this. Why aren't they saying these sort of things?" People can learn from seeing like that sort of stuff, and that's why I think they've got people there with the experience. John's got the experience in qual, same as some of the others are on there. Have some more live focus, but maybe it's just a bit too risky for them doing
It's
that.
it's
What happens if
about
they say,
drama, and like I fucked up because I did not do a lot of backstory homework on what Married at First Sight is. When
"Yep,
I got accepted for the show, I Googled all their profiles and I genuinely thought, what a great moment for self development because they're all got psychology backgrounds and their relationships. And this is something I personally want to improve on. And I did buy into the process initially until I heard microphones in the ear. And then they go, Ben, you got to repeat your answer. I mean, they repeat the question again. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I personally unsubscribed to the process and become highly skeptical. And then I
yep."
started to I can watch Married at First Sight and then become conscious of how things are edited out of context. So I got stuck in my own
Yep.
bloody head, where
Mate,
other people.
I need to jump in there. There's a couple of things where things happen that are really important. That was one that you just said. We said before about some of the things that you'd said about the experiment and your priorities and about like in the opportunities like you're with it. You just shared then about the fact that pre that you had done some identification of it and did some review, and here's what they've got with psychology degree and these sort of things that we've just shared as natural things and same thing. So that's genuine conversation with no thought scripting, no motivation or intent like behind it. That's one of the other things that would have been front of mind subconsciously when you're saying about the opportunity and the experiment and these sort of
Hmm.
things. That self-learning. So there's a bit of a recurring theme there about that, asking friends what I can do to progress, reviewing about this and what I can get from that from dealing with these sort of people. So that's why I meant about tying then. You always get more information, but that's why it's getting back to some of the things that I said were true. It's just here's some of the context as to what you meant when you were saying those things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it sure does.
Mm.
Um, one final one, two truths, one lie. Okay. Like I said, I reckon we could talk all night. So two truths, one lie. I sign up for
Yep.
MAFS to promote my podcast. I sign up for MAFS for a relationship. I sign up to MAFS not to work in the construction industry during COVID.
Ooh. What's the lie out of those?
What's the lie?
I mean, the lie out of those compared to like you with these things, like it would be the podcast from, and I'm saying that more from our discussions, like in behavioral point, and knowing the approach you're taking for with this would be no expense and for whatever else. I think that I don't think the belief from what I pick up from our discussions and dealings and other parts as well. I don't think you'd think that the construction industry would be beneath you, but I don't think it'd be aligned with your passion. So saying you didn't want to do that for during that time would be just the opportunity cost that it would stop you doing some other things where you could have impact or growth. So I believe that would be the truth. I don't think that would be a lie. Um, the podcast was the other one, which at the moment is still my front runner. What was the other one?
So I sign up for MAFS to promote a podcast, sign up for MAFS for a relationship. I sign up for MAFS not to work in the construction industry during COVID.
I think you sign up for a relationship. But I'm going to say I'd change that slightly. I think you sign up like you're for relationships, part for networking, some review, validation, or a whole range of those sort of things. I think the podcast, like it would be the lie out of that.
Correct. That fucking stuck with me the whole bloody show.
Yeah.
I'm here to promote a podcast. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Well, people didn't like know. And remember, even so, initially with things as we've spoken now, you've spoken about, there's things that you've said and you've just drip fed conversationally, like as well that you've said as part of conversation that have given gleaned some more insight to stuff about some part from self-criticality, but also from about, growth and development. That's why you've looked and reached out to friends and done those other things and thought about that part, like if with the experts. So it's been a good convo, mate, for sure. Been
All right.
enlightening.
It sure has. So we'll start to wrap this up. So the next house I'd like to buy, can you come along? Because I'd love for you to can you analyze a real estate agent and they're the final offer? Because there's a whole haggle going backwards and forwards, and
Yeah.
they're in the interest of the seller, of course, and you might express interest of the buyer, and they go, look, this is a final offer. Like, can you smell bullshit? And
I
if
train
so,
both.
can you come along and save me thousands of dollars in negotiation.
So I do bits and both. So when I say it's varied with what I do, so I do everything from the recruitment, from the security point of view, that yeah, for people as well, understanding what those hygiene gestures, if they've got more in the tank, more room to move, do they have another buyer? Are they saying it's the same thing? Everyone has their version of tells. So it's picking up that baseline, and then when you're pressing them about those items, looking for those signs of discomfort and hygiene gestures and others. So yes, I do work in that space. Actually, I had one person who did one of my programs. I can't mention him or the detail, but he was doing a negotiation for a big software package. And I told him about, those hygiene gestures that people will self-preen if they're going to come back to put the best version of themselves. So he used that twice and ended up getting 30% off a substantial, like sort of thing, like tens of thousands, just from that part. He
Just
didn't
paid
even,
for
didn't
the
even use
course,
some of
didn't
the
it?
others. Yeah, that's it. Oh, the course is way cheaper.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Are you banned from casinos?
No, I'm not.
Particularly from
But I
poker
do.
tables?
I do training for a range of my. I'm not smart enough to do card counting or whatever, like in these sort of things. But from the behavioral point of view, to be honest, I've never tried it. I know that there's books that have come out by people with training. Here's how to tell poker tells and whatever else. I've never tried it. I probably will,
You've
but at the
never
moment,
played. You've never played poker,
I
and
can't remember the last time I played poker. I've
fuck,
never
take
tried
it
from a behavioral
up.
point of view.
Like seriously, like the bluff your way. Like the people that go to a poker game and
Just have
then
a crack.
find players or that love to bluff. They got
Yep.
a bullshit hand and they'll bluff their way, and you're sitting at the table. Fuck me.
So
You'll
some of the
make a
things with that
fortune.
that you look at, some of the things that you look at with that. So I mentioned to you things like blink rate. We blink 12 to 14 blinks per minute. Under stress and duress, that goes up. The distance between the thumb and the hands, if we're resting on a poker table, when we're relaxed and confident, we have more space between our thumb and hands. As we get tension and stress, that goes under. As people are doing these things and lying, you'll see a whole range of discomfort tells coming. So, well, we can't do it now. You're sharing like on a podcast about what we're going to do when going and reading.
Fucking hell, I can see it now. Someone's listening to this podcast and we roll it down to, Texas
There's a
Hold'em poker
photo.
night. They're like, fucking clear the table.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that could happen.
Well, Scott, I really appreciate your time and energy and effort. Some of the stuff I prepared, you reviewed me possibly in a negative way, and thank you for being open and honest and transparent and unpacking it. The Jack questions, that probably got you blood. So he sent it through. I was like, fucking hell. All right, we'll give it a go.
Oh, man, I half expected like some, because I mean, post that and you sharing that, I had a couple of different cast members that jump on my socials and TikTok and others and have a look at the profile. So I half expected to get some questions from a couple of cast members. I've had one or two messages like previously from others just saying, hey, I saw that and hey, you were spot on, or I thought different, whatever.
Yeah.
Yep, no, all good. But yeah, mate, like I said, like it was I'm glad that he reached out, like he did that. I'm always happy to discuss that. I'm also always happy to be open-minded and corrected. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
for things as well. So I'll put
Continuous
things.
learning.
That's it, mate. 100%.
I drink the similar Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Obviously you've drank different types of Kool-Aid, but in terms of having a growth mindset,
Yep.
I'm all for it. I love that stuff. Big on it actually. Where can people find you on social media, and where can people do this course if they want to do a course with you?
Yes, I'm in social media, like so. At and then it's Scott Taylor, as I am on Insta and TikTok. And from the courses and things, like I'm sharing those just on my website. I've got a link tree on there, and I've got everything from behavior profiling, deception detection, how to learn it for influence, people from sales and these sort of things, how to pick up some of the tells to identify and influence others' behaviors. There's a whole range of other stuff we do around there that you're interested about the influence stuff. We do behavioral social engineering. So for checking security of sites, we watch the site for a day and their people. We then see where they go for coffee, for morning tea and lunch. The next day we're in there bumping them, dressed like them, having conversations to get information. Then we use that to try and sneak in and then give them a report on security. So there's lots of stuff around that space that more will come out. That's why, yeah, I think I'm happy with what I'm doing and happy I'm able to be of service and help keep people safe and secure.
Well, I'm possibly going to be becoming a real estate agent. Would you believe that? Settling
Yep.
down,
We'll do it.
relationships, more life on the road. So I
Yep.
might have to do one of your courses so I can better negotiate.
Yeah, no worries, mate. Yeah, I mean, we're real estate, like same thing. It's relationships.
Yep.
For people getting involved with some of the most important, biggest purchases of their life, they need to feel trust. They need to feel safe. So, what does that look like for them? For sure. It's been a great chat.
Likewise, Scott. Thank you kindly. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, mate. All good. Cheers.
You've made it to the end of the podcast. All right. Now, if you've enjoyed this chat, please give us a like, subscribe, or leave a juicy comment, while bearing in mind I've kept this podcast to an absolute near $0 budget. So I hope you enjoy. See you next time.